Okay, so here we are, December 8th. We are talking about this is actually just kind of unofficial. It is very much off the record.
But kind of on the record due to it being recorded.
Well, I mean, I think it's
A behind the scenes thing, just so the viewers at home can see, like, we do have these conversations all the damn time.
very much so. Like we discuss this all the time. This is what we do, and I enjoy it. It's fun, and it gives us something to talk about. First, I do want to point out, of course, this is two of your admins. We are Grown A Geeks. I don't know when this video is going to get posted. Let me just say that. I don't know when this video is going to see the light of day, but I want to say that officially we're recording this on December 8th. So
2020.
whenever this comes out, at this point we are a number of episodes into season 2 of The Mandalorian, and fix your audio. Whatever you did a moment ago, your audio cut down. So bring your audio back up.
My audio died.
It didn't
Hello?
die, but it just seems like it's low.
Am I not speaking loudly enough?
No,
Or
I mean it's obviously picking up on the recording. I mean when you talk, the it's moving up. It just let me just turn my headphones up. I'll do that. That way you don't have to feel like you're yelling or anything. And we will keep
as
it.
long as the viewers at home can hear me, that is the main point I want to get across. I want to
Yeah,
make sure it's usable audio.
Yeah, it's usable audio there. I can see it's moving up. It's good there. So we'll count it as being good there. Man, The Mandalorian has been a wild ride.
Because after episode 3, I want to say, I was worried about where the season was going to go. Or, well, no, it's episode 2. I was worried where we were going to go and whether this was going to be another huge letdown. And then they pulled me back in so quickly and so effectively. I cannot say enough good things about what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are doing. Give both of them the helmet Star Wars. Everyone else be damned. You can go cry in a corner. You have proven you know nothing about Star Wars, George Lucas. I'm sorry, but compared to them, you are now a has-been. I don't care. Give me my new stuff from these two gentlemen. They know what they're talking about. They know how to portray their universe, and they know how to use the characters that George Lucas's original IP had created.
Dave Filoni has established so much of the canon for Star Wars that whatever he says is now what is. Jon Favreau has been doing such an amazing job this go round, and the last episode was one of the shorter episodes.
Because we're all complaining about the length of the episode, of how short they've been, and they're like, oh, what can they possibly do in this 34-minute episode? They did the most in the 34 minutes they could have possibly done.
And shout out to Robert Rodriguez. I have a friend named Richard Rodriguez. I was actually talking about him earlier. But shout out to Robert Rodriguez, who directed this latest episode.
As a fill-in director, no less. He was a fill-in director. They literally called this man up like a couple days before because their original man they had in mind couldn't make it. So this beautiful episode fell into his lap, and he kicked the ever-loving crap out of this episode. I have not been that sucked into a television since probably like the 3rd episode of the last season of Game of Thrones with the Battle at Winterfell. Like literally, that was how high key I was about this. I was as close to my TV as you could get to, a 55-inch TV. Like as close as you want to get, I should say. Because I mean,
nose on the screen.
Yeah, like controller would have been right here. I was just staring directly into the camera. I was lost in everything that had been going on. There was not a detail I wanted to miss. I went back and watched the episode again as soon as I finished, just to make sure that all the points that I'd just seen and all the stuff that had just become new canon because they retconned Jango Fett's whole story.
Yeah.
Jango also, and this Boba will be very well, considering the point that this will be released. It's not spoiler heavy. You should already know what's coming out, depending on the release date of when this does see the light of day. But they retconned his whole damn story because they made him a foundling, as opposed to where he was just a mercenary who happened to kill a Mandalorian, take the armor, and that was his.
Correct, because originally the armor was supposed to be Durasteel, and making it Beskar, in fact, does retcon it specifically to being Mandalorian by making him a foundling. It does still, of course, for those of you who haven't, I will suggest certainly go and watch all the episodes of the Clone Wars, just because you need to know Bo-Katan and you need to know about other Mandalorians. Rebels with
Rebels last season is where they touched upon the Mandalorians the heaviest, because that's when Ahsoka fought Maul, because Maul had seized Mandalore, which he does do in Shadows of Dathomir trilogy. I want to say, I think that was a 3-part comic or book on him,
and the point about in the episode with Bo-Katan where she actually talks about, oh, you're one of those Mandalorians. You know, she talks about how a portion of the Mandalorians split off. And so the whole helmet bit where they're taking the helmets off and not taking the helmets off, and how all of that plays in and where that goes. So for Jango to be seen without his helmet and still be Mandalorian, you know, that was a nice little way to not really clean that up, but to retcon that a little bit and give it some, you know, explanation and justify it a bit.
Because I was gonna say, most Star Wars fanboys would always say that Boba and Jango were never true Mandalorians, because you saw both of them either comic or in live action without a helmet at some point in time.
Correct.
As opposed to Din Djarin, you are not supposed to see him, period, without a helmet. The only time we saw it without a helmet was he was literally on the verge of death, and there was literally no other option, and it was a non-human seeing him, so that's how he said it was fine. No one else knows what's under it there.
So the main point that I want to get into, and what I really want to discuss right now, first off, Grogu. How do you feel about that name?
Honestly, I'll get over it. I mean, the name does not specifically create the character. More often than not, it's just another piece of information you have, because Mando is what we call the Mandalorian. There are a whole race of them. We just call him Mando. No one refers to him by his name. It's just, hey, Mando.
The only person who has referred to him by name is
the armor
Esposito. No, Giancarlo Esposito, his character. The one with the black saber.
Moff Gideon.
Moff Gideon, thank you. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So Moff Gideon is the only person so far who has referred to him by name, because he actually pulled the records, and he has the records from Mandalorian and from Mandalore, and
which I'm assuming was easy to get, considering the dark saber the last time we saw it was on the planet of Mandalore.
Right. So there's that, and he's the only person who's actually referred to him by name. Even though it's obvious a couple of people do know his name, but no one else calls him by his name. Like you said, everybody calls him Mando. So as far as the child,
it's just Yoda, the child or Baby Yoda. That's
calling him Grogu. It's like, whatever. I don't care. I have no feelings about the name, good, bad, otherwise. That's just that is his name. It is what it is. Moving on.
Because Anakin is also supposed to be referred to as the Chosen One throughout. Sometimes he's just referred to as Skywalker. He's referred to as Skyboy by Ahsoka. And he's also referred to as a fuck up because we had to deal with the original prequels. So I mean, you pick your poison on that one. It's just, it is what it is.
So there are a number of things that, I mean, I'm not even going to sit here and try to go through all the Easter eggs, but there were a couple of things that stood out to me and I thought were very interesting. When we see the child sitting on the Seeing Stone, I did like the callback
for Filoni's Rebels. When he had Ezra there with
yes,
who was Ezra's teacher? I always forget his name.
Is that Katarn?
No, Kyle Katarn is completely different.
Kyle Katarn is from the game
because he was also sometimes referred. Is he the hero of Tython?
Kyle Katarn was from the game, but Ezra Bridger's Kanan.
Kanan, yeah,
Kanan.
Yeah,
I was about to call him Janan, but yeah, Kanan. So, I think the idea that when this takes place, this timeline is 5 years. Are we 5 years after the Battle of Yavin?
We are at least 5 years after the Battle of Yavin because the Empire has not only fallen, but the First Order hasn't even showed up yet. Because Ezra, how old was he in Rebels? That'd be the big cue. Because right now, at the time of, oh no, it's 9 years after the Battle of Yavin. It says so on the meme that I sent you.
Okay.
What Jedi could possibly train him? Because Ezra would be 28 at this time, as opposed to where he was, like maybe 12, 14, around the time of Rebels, maybe. I don't know his exact age. I just know he was a little old for most Jedi acceptance at that time.
So one of the big things to point out is, of course, when the child is sitting on the Seeing Stone and you see that Force
aura
for lack of shoot out from the rock, that is a very, very, very powerful beacon. And basically, anybody who is strong in the Force,
good or bad,
anybody who is strong in the Force will get that beacon. They will be aware of the child's presence.
It's like a direct text to literally all Force users.
Correct. And so the question that's been brought up, of course, is who is going to be the person that hears or responds to this? Now, the very first thing that comes to mind for me, given that we have in just the previous episode, we get our live action Ahsoka. So stoked about that. And I loved Rosario Dawson. She
did amazing in that. And she has been tapped officially to be the one that they would want to move a live action Ahsoka forward with, which would ultimately reveal spoilers for this season that she will not die at any point in time if she does show up again.
Not in this season, but major spoiler, the actress who voiced Ahsoka on the Clone Wars, her voice is actually heard in The Force Awakens. When and it's funny because
I thought it was the last Skywalker that she showed up because she was part of the people talking to.
Was it the last Skywalker?
The very, very last one very last movie she talked to Rey. I wanted to say Mary Sue, but that's what the community calls her, and I don't want to touch on that particular topic because that's
did you see any of the things that I had to say about that? I saw where you went with it, and I was like, okay, I'll catch him later and we'll talk. But did you see where I was going?
I saw where you were going, but you want her so badly to be a Kenobi. I don't know if there's reasoning with you because they've given you what it is, but you still don't accept it.
No, I accept it because they said that's what it is, but I do still think.
She's a Palpatine, her whole last quote sucked. I was pissed.
And her being a Palpatine, I still don't think that has any bearing on The Force Awakens. And calling her a Mary Sue in The Force Awakens, I think they did a horrible job of writing her character in episodes.
They did a horrible job of writing
8 and
everybody's
9.
Character.
But 8 and 9 is where they dropped the ball.
Because they switched directors and they lost the continuity.
Bingo. I believe that is where her Mary Sue-ness comes in.
Because if you just took 7 and 9 and put them together, they would mesh. But since you have to add 8 as the in-between, these things don't look... At least one of these things is not like the others. One of these things does not belong. Episode
Correct.
8, which was a bold choice for the Star Wars universe.
And if they had just stayed with Rian Johnson to do 9, I think that they could have continued with the arc that way, and that would have worked out just as well. I think the big problem is introducing all of this information in 7, doing something completely different in 8, and then trying to go back to that information in 9. So you discredit everything that happens and everything that took place in 8. So that growth that we started to get is suddenly gone. Because by the end,
they were so busy tying up loose ends they didn't have time to continue with what the character should have been. Because Finn got screwed the whole way through. Poe had some development. Rey was garbage. Palpatine was just included because, as soon as you heard the cackle, you're like, really? This man again versus the Skywalkers? Like, I love Palpatine. I call him Papa Palpatine. That's
even if you go with, okay, that's we'll come back to that because I want to talk about the child. Okay. We'll come back to her Mary Sue-ness in a moment if time permits. If time permits, we'll come back to that. But so he's on the Seeing Stone. The Force aura is up in the sky. Who are the people that could have heard this? The very first thing that comes to mind that I would love to see, I would love for it to be Cal Kestis.
And for those unfamiliar, Cal Kestis is the amazing character from, what was it? What was the name of the game? That's just on the tip of my tongue.
Oh,
it was like
the Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Force, hold on, let me grab it. I've got it right here.
Literally, folks, this is the best Star Wars game that I have played in. Star Wars Fallen Order. He was the main protagonist throughout that whole story, and honestly, that was one of the best Star Wars video games I have played since like way back. Like I'm talking like Star Wars Battlefront 2 for the PS2. Like I ain't talking about this
Force Unleashed, but better.
Somehow, yes, because I love that. If they could make him canon, Starkiller, I would fanboy the hell out of that. But I mean, that's another tangent for another day. Cal Kestis at this time frame would only be 41.
He'd be the perfect
They already
age.
have the live action person because they literally, it's like, hey, Kyle Monahan?
Monahan. For those, Shameless. He's one of the people from
He's
Shameless.
the ginger, the redhead from Shameless. You take him, they literally took his whole face, put it on a Jedi, had him action out, do his scenes, all that crap. And that's it. They didn't do any touch-ups. They didn't do any facial changing. It's literally shot for shot his face on that character. So they could very easily adapt his character depending on what they do with the second game, because we have no idea what they're going to do with that. Literally take him, put him live action, touch him up to look older, and you're done.
Cameron Monaghan.
Thank you.
Yep. And
he's a great actor. He did a good job in Gotham as Joker as well.
Yeah, definitely worth mentioning him there. And Deborah Wilson as Sarah June.
It is very possible, but by this point, she is up there. And we saw how she may have reawakened her whole Force thing because she just literally turned it off. But I don't know. Her and Cal would be a packaged bundle.
Right. And I think that's where, if he comes along, depending on... Have you played that game?
I played the ever-loving crap out of that.
Okay, and you beat the game.
All of it. There's no spoilers you can have for me. Okay. I beat it. I had an alternate ending. I subbed in characters. I did the whole shebang.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so by the end of the game, since the
game's been out for over a year, there's no
true. I mean, but
potential spoilers for this.
Even so, it was just one of those things, like, hey, since we know who's alive at the end of the game and we know what's taking place and what his mission is and where he's going and what he's trying to do, the whole basis of the game is for them to find this holocron that has a list of all the Force-sensitive individuals that exist,
and save them from becoming the it's not Night Sisters. What are they called?
Inquisitors.
The Inquisitors, yes.
And so it makes one wonder, like,
how his mission's going, how committed he is to this.
Yeah, like what names are on this list and where are these people at and things like that. And so, of course,
because Grogu would have definitely made the list, considering he was at the Jedi Temple at the time of the Purge, according to Filoni, someone tweeted at him, was like, hey, where was Grogu during this time frame? And he was there. Apparently, he's in a shot of Revenge of the Sith in the corner hiding when Anakin enters the room, but I don't know if that was edited in or what the deal was. I'm assuming edited in because the internet's like that nowadays, because they can make some look really real that's definitely not. So,
well, we're gonna pull out the Blu-rays and we're gonna pull that up and check on that. I have to see that. That I was not aware of.
I have not confirmed it. I'm in several Star Wars groups. I don't know how. I've never seen that person post in the group beforehand, though, so I'd come in with low expectations.
I got you. Okay, duly noted. But I will make it a point. I will look for it because I've got the Blu-rays and I will go frame by frame with that scene. There's a lot of talk about who would have saved the child and things like that. So, I mean, there's just so much available to explore now. And given how well this is being written and what a great job they're doing to include different aspects. The very first thing I noticed when he sat down on the Seeing Stone was the blue butterflies.
Mm-hmm. Which is symbolic.
And the blue butterflies are actually symbolic of Ben Solo. And so Ben Solo at this point would probably be he would only be about 5 or 6. But giving his strong connection to the Force and the fact that we already know that Ben Solo can do the Jedi long distance calling.
Whatever you want to call it, Jedi Skype, Sith Skype, I don't even know.
Because you know what? He does Jedi Zoom. Force Zoom. Because he can do Force Zoom calls, who's to say that he was not the one that did a Force Zoom call with Yoda? And not Yoda, but Baby Yoda. And who's to say that Force Zoom call didn't take place with Palpatine?
I mean, Palpatine was still alive and well because we've learned that he was just a clone at this point in time. So he's still operating behind the scenes, but he's not officially at the helm to everybody's knowledge. You got to be like higher ups on higher ups on higher ups. Like you had to been already part of the secret circle and sworn in and all that shit. And be like, hey, no, he's alive. He's still doing his thing.
One of the things that I think it's like 2 episodes back where he teams back up with
Mama June
and Cara Dune and
Mama June is Cara Dune.
the little Gil guy.
I always forget his name, but he's a great character.
I do like his character. He's there for comedy relief, but you can also tell that he's got like some tie-ins for some good story.
Yeah, he's got some savvy to him.
When they're on the right there in the heart of the volcano and whatnot, and they think it's like an empty old base, and it turns out that it's like an actually operational, fully functional base, and obviously
fully stationed with troopers.
And there appears to be cloning experiments taking place because we see all the tanks with the bodies in them. And we come to discover that the whole purpose of them wanting the child is that the child has a very high M count, which they did a good job of not saying the word midichlorians. But that's clearly
they're trying to walk around Star Wars' biggest fumble. They're like, no, don't look at that. Just M. It's not what you think it is, but it is.
Yeah. And so with his M count being high the way that it is, basically saying that he's, naturally strong in the Force, they're wanting to use that blood, and that actually lends a little bit of credibility to Snoke being a failed clone.
Because that is what he was. He was literally a clone that even Palpatine said in The Last Skywalker, yeah, he was just a failed projection of myself. Like, this is what I would look like if I sucked. Here he is. Which destroyed so much of your hope, because I know how much you wanted him to be.
I needed Snoke to be something. Up badass. I mean, because the way they presented him, and
with so much mystery and aura and presence, and then you're just like, oh yeah, he's a clone. Fuck that.
And so of course that leaves, when we talk about the different people that could be. So we know why they want the child, and we know that they're trying to get the child. And Moff Gideon is the one conducting these experiments, and he's chasing the child all over the galaxy. and we know that the one doctor that Moff Gideon says, contact the doctor, let him know that we have the child. Because in the episode The Tragedy, they do in fact reclaim the child, and we get to see Baby Yoda like force throwing some stormtroopers around. He's like force choking a couple of them, and it's one of those really interesting scenarios because it's like here he is, he's naturally strong in the Force. We find out that even though he's 50 years old, he grew up in the Jedi Temple, so he's already had some previous training,
more than Luke or Bray had.
And it's one of those things where like when you look at the feats that he's already accomplished, it seems to be the biggest issue is his communication. Not being able to talk to him.
For whatever reason, he's mute.
But he clearly seems to understand and comprehend. And I think it's more or less a matter of him, he can use contextual clues and he can use body language and things like that. But I'm also believing that maybe he understands just like some general words. Like I don't know what they consider the English language in Star Wars, because different characters are going to speak different things. Like, you speak droid, you can speak this, you speak Hut, you could speak
Wookiee, Troydarian, you can speak Bothan, you can speak Kaminoan. I mean,
and so maybe it's like, various role playing games where it's like common. English would be considered common. So it's like, obviously the child seems to understand some phrases in common or some words in common, because if nothing else, he recognizes his name, and it doesn't seem like his name has to have any kind of special
connotation to it.
Right.
Because like literally it's like when you talk to your dog. You say the dog's name, tilt.
The dog knows you're talking to him because he recognizes.
Okay, now what do you want from me? Well, you said my name. What do you want?
Right.
Grogu will respond to that.
So, first off, do you have that list? Actually, you do have that list because you sent
I have that list, and I did send it to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna try this because it's us, and it's just us. I'm going to see if I can do this. So let me.
We're testing your tech skills on the fly, because that's what we do with Grown A Geeks. I mean, if it doesn't turn out well, the video won't see most of the light of day, or we'll just edit around. I mean, it's one of those things. When you get two people who are passionate about a certain IP or certain entity, there is a good chance you're going to get higher quality of context for everyone around you, because you may know something I don't know, and vice versa, and opposed to different theories of who's got more knowledge of non-canon versus canon and everything that is going on for this Star Wars universe. But I love how we've talked about this episode, but we haven't talked about the greatest badass in the whole damn episode.
Because he deserves his own moment, and I don't want to share his moment with anything else. I know exactly what you mean, but I don't want to share his moment.
Because apparently the internet didn't like it. Somehow, some way, it turned into fat shaming. Like, of all the damn things to do, you're going to pick on the dad bod. Really? It's like, we have wanted this character to be badass since literally like Empire Strikes Back.
We've needed this character to be badass for some time, because for the longest time, he was just a character that
we knew was a bounty hunter. That was it.
Right. Like, there was nothing to ever justify him being so great, or, you know what I'm saying?
Why Vader trusted him as much as he did.
There was nothing.
Boba literally told Vader on a couple instances, like, hey, I know who you are, like, underneath all that. It's like, we were there on the same day where my dad was beheaded. I know you. I know what happened here, the whole little switcheroo stunt you guys pulled. I know that. So, I mean, he's like, I used to hunt you guys. So, well, my dad used to hunt you guys. Now I do it just because, that's where the money's at. Because the internet's also upset in the sense that the original actor, who was Boba Fett, was the nerdiest looking white dude you could probably pull up. Like, middle-aged dude, looks like he can throw down on the grill, specs and everything. And then the real actor the actor that they chose to make real for this one is the guy who was Jango Fett. which I thought was a beautiful touch. I don't know why anyone wanted to get that particular point twisted up like that. But
okay, I think I've actually got it here. So we're gonna pop that in and
see what happens.
We're gonna pop that in transition. And just to be clear, this is actually a list of all the Jedi that could possibly train Baby Yoda / Grogu.
It's not all of them, but it's the most concise list I could find.
And this is perhaps the most accurate, because keep in mind that they would actually either have to have the title of Jedi Knight at the minimum or Jedi Master on their own in order to be able to train a Padawan. And they would have to have enough experience in the Force themselves in order to be able to train. So any of the other Padawans that might have survived probably would have either severed their connection to the Force or would not have the skill set capable. And that
adequate training, yeah.
And that will bring me to another point here in just a bit. Because that actually came up. So let me first bring this screen up. Boom, there it is, and I can see it. So here are the possible Jedi who could train Grogu. Number one.
A BBY, for those who don't know, is before the Battle of Yavin, which would be the Return of the Jedi's battle where the Death Star gets blown up and Palpatine dies, quote unquote.
So that's Battle of Yavin. So number one, we have Ezra Bridger, who is from Star Wars Rebels. At the time, he was born in 19 BBY, so that makes him 28 years old. And this is 9 ABY, which is after the Battle of Yavin, which is the timeline for The Mandalorian. So we've got Ezra Bridger. He's 28 years old. Luke and Leia.
Who I would hate to see in any context for this story. We do not need more Skywalkers.
And let me say first off, Leia would not be the one to train Grogu.
She tried training Rey, so that argument can fall flat.
Well, it can fall flat, but keep in mind the timeline here. At the time she attempted to train Rey, this was years later.
She had to have gotten the training from Luke, and I'm assuming within 10 years you can get some adequate amount of training done.
And I want to say in the Legends series, she is in fact a trained Jedi Knight. Never achieves the level of Master, but she is a trained Jedi Knight, and therefore capable, has her own lightsaber, etc. We see none of that take place in what is considered the canon Star Wars.
Other than her using the Force to pull herself back into the ship, which was such a weird-ass scene, but all right.
Yeah, that is...
Apparently she just says, you know what, Gravity? I can make you when I want.
Okay.
Screw space.
Moving on. Cal Kestis, as we've already mentioned, that is my top pick, personally. That is my top pick.
He's easily top 2 for me. Easily.
And...
because if you can incorporate the video games into the TV show that still continues seamlessly with what you have cinematically, hats off to Filoni and Favreau yet again. Because that's a lot of IP you got to touch on.
And that also reads for Sarah June, who is number 4.
She's obviously with Cal Kestis at the end of the game. She survives.
She comes in exactly, and that was what I wanted to point out. If you played through the game and you beat the game, you have the end of the story. You see that Sarah June survives. Ergo, she's one of the available people able to train. Since she herself, and that's why this was so important. I wanted to mention this earlier. She is in fact a Jedi Master. In the game, she knights Cal Kestis as a Jedi Knight. Completing the game, finishing the story with her being alive, she could have gone on to train him to the level of Master. And then at the time that Grogu comes about, they would have noticed the disturbance in the Force, so to speak. He could be a Master at that point and go on to find the baby Grogu. So Sarah Junda, very important that she's there. And I would love to see Deborah Wilson get work. I love Deborah Wilson as an actress. She was great in Mad TV, and she's been great in all the video games I've played.
Because like literally every actor who was in that Star Wars entity game, holy hell, did they do a great job.
So fantastic.
It was just seamless, top to bottom. I loved it. I can't wait for the second one.
Now I'll let you speak on Quinlan Voss.
Quinlan Voss, you see him briefly in the Clone Wars. Like he gets like not much screen time, but he was a full Jedi Master. He had his own Padawan. He was doing his thing. He's now, while he's canon, he's like there's a gray area there because he's not uber important, but he is still a relevant Jedi Master at that time because there are technically a couple other Jedi that are kicking at this time, but at the same time, they don't have the name recognition as everybody else because he was a Jedi Master, lived during the final days of the Galactic Republic. He hailed from Kaifu. He was a maverick within the Jedi Order and gathered a reputation for bending the rules. So if you remember that Jedi Master that was annoying Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars and was doing things what Obi-Wan considered horribly reckless and horribly wrong, that was Quinlan Voss. That was what he was all about. Because that's how they have him in canon, as opposed to Legends. He kind of does things a little bit differently. So,
okay, so here's a quick image of Quinlan Voss. We've got that up there. I've got him shown. Boom, there he is. For those of you who are not aware, because I had no clue, didn't want to even pretend. And so moving back here. Okay, so that gives us Quinlan Voss. And then, of course, Ashoka Tano. And it's so funny because
she won't do it, though.
She has already stated that she will not train the baby. She will not train him. Now, that raises a question to say, she says that she won't train him because of his attachment. And she has seen what that attachment can do.
To a Jedi Knight was the funny thing. She said Jedi Knight.
Bingo.
She didn't say Master, so she was still giving Anakin the bird to this day. Although she still loves him and all that, but
Right, like she's always going to have a soft, gooey spot for Skyboy. And so Ashoka Tano, her being one, and of course she's 45, 45. She's of age to properly train and whatnot. And she herself, now here's the funny part.
She left the order though. She's not even a Jedi Knight. She's
right. I was about to say, we're going to take a moment. We're going to stop and pause here. And we're going to talk about Ahsoka. Because first of all, love that Ahsoka was on film. Loved her
and
live
portrayed
action.
Accurately.
So accurate. Major props to Rosario Dawson, the lovely, lovely Rosario Dawson. She did such a great job and brought that character to life. She clearly did her homework and research of the character because I feel like she portrayed her
She was in contact with the actress who did the voice work for her. She wanted to make sure she did honor to her character because Rosario Dawson herself knew that the community wanted the voice actress for Clone Wars, for Ahsoka. Those who they wanted to do the live action. But Rosario was, someone drew up Rosario as Ahsoka and was like, hey, would this look great? And the next thing
believe that was Boss Logic.
And then literally the internet was like, yes, you've won. Rosario has to be it. But the actress who voiced Ahsoka and Rosario Dawson both have been in contact and they both loved each other's work. They both got the seals of approval from each other, as well as the Star Wars community. Because if you didn't like that portrayal, I don't know what will please you at this point. But also the Star Wars community, as we know, can be toxic at times. There is some uncharted waters there. It's some stuff you just don't mess with. And then, do you want to keep touching on Ahsoka, or do you have one you wanted to talk about the last one on that list?
I want to show Ashley Eckstein real quick, just because I feel like she deserves a moment because
all the backlash she got when she started.
Well, not only that, but
because she was the most hated Star Wars character other than Jar Jar for a long period of time. And then she won everybody over at the end. We had no choice but to love her.
Why is it not
such a compelling character?
Okay, it doesn't want to give me that. So I'm trying to find an image that I can just pull up There we go. I can bring that image over, and it's okay. Cool. Boom. So that is originally Ashley Eckstein. Is
phenomenal
who
actress.
They wanted to bring over for. Like, this is what the community initially asked for, to make her, because she did the voice. And it's much like having
you can either use Darth Vader because you have David Prowse, may he rest in peace. He was the body, and then you change
Bruce
the voice.
Wayne, Batman.
Which version are you going for?
Animated.
There's so many. Conroy.
Thank you, Kevin Conroy. Jesus.
How do you forget one of the best voices in voice acting? Okay, you validated the point. But yeah, Kevin Conroy.
Conroy finally got to make his live action debut when they did the whole crossover event in the Arrowverse and whatnot. And that was like such
well deserved.
Right. That was like so iconic to have that. And they brought Brandon Routh back, and he got to play, Superman. The older version of Superman, and it was so great. And there was so much good that came out of that.
If only they could have used Mark Hamill for Joker, but they couldn't have used him because they already used him in the Arrowverse or in a Flash part of the Arrowverse.
Right, Prankster. Because he was Prankster. And then they brought in Prankster Jr., and that was the episode he was in, because he was in the original Flash TV show as the Prankster. But Ashley Eckstein, because she did such amazing voice work for the animated series for as long as she did that voice, it only seemed fair and natural to bring her in for the live action. Much like you pointed out, they did a fan cast. Boss Logic was commissioned to, here's what Ahsoka Tano would look like as Rosario. Here's what Rosario Dawson would look like as Ahsoka Tano. And then that, like you said, that's what it became. At that point, that's what it was.
And it was like, either give us Rosario Dawson or give us Eckstein. Give us nobody else. Anybody else would have been shit canned.
And no one else even needed to apply for it at that point. So they went ahead, they moved forward, they brought Ahsoka Tano in. And when they brought her in and used Rosario Dawson, it was one of the best things we've ever seen. And
in the Star Wars universe, period. Yeah.
It was just so beautiful. So
Rosario Dawson had the fighting style down, the voice mantra down. She had her just mechanics down, her mannerisms. She was literally perfect. I could not nitpick anything.
Let me tell you what got me. And my wife can attest to this, that I was literally, like, first of all, when we saw the previous episode where Bo-Katan was like, go to this planet and look for Ahsoka Tano, I was like, I was like so giddy. I was so happy. And so my wife was kind of looking at me and she was like, what's that about? And I was like, oh my God. Okay, let me show you who Ahsoka Tano is. And I was like, remember the girl? And she was like, kinda. I was like, oh, we about to do a crash course in episodes. So I went and I was like, I was trying to think back, like, what were some of the best episodes? And we watched all the episodes where
she was fighting Maul. Basically, last season of Clone Wars, he could have done that.
No, not even that, because I wanted her to see, like, kind of the journey. So I went all the way back to the episode where they went to the island with the slavers, or they went to the planet with the slavers, and Anakin was undercover with the Queen, and Ahsoka was
it was like the cat people or something.
Yeah, right. So it was like, and Obi-Wan actually got captured and caught, and then the Queen was trying to like convince Anakin to like work with her and be her bodyguard, and they would
work with her intimately.
Right, and like be the bodyguard and this, that, and the other, and I wanted her to like see how poised and how well, like, she don't take no mess. And she's hot-headed and arrogant, and how she's just like Anakin, and that's why it's perfect that she's the Padawan. And then we like skipped forward to like some of the end of the Clone Wars where we see her like leaving the Order. Because I needed my wife just to get like a baseline of who this character is and explain why she has white lightsabers. Because my wife was like, "Why are her lightsabers look like that?" Da, da, da. So I was like, "Oh, glad you asked.
Conversation right there.
Like, look, glad you asked. Let's sit down and watch these episodes of Clone Wars. And so that was what we kind of did for a day and a half. Was we just binged a couple episodes, and I didn't even make her go through the whole thing. I was like,
here's the highlights.
Let me just pull up the important episodes, and then we did jump over and we watched like an episode or two of Rebels, just so she could see like a grown up version, see her fight Vader and that bit and whatnot. And I didn't really want to spoil it in case I can get her to actually sit through Rebels with me again, because I have to finish Rebels.
So basically, what you're saying is I spoiled something.
No, okay. You did not spoil anything, because this is 2020 and I am in the age of I need to know and I have to get caught up. And I am like against,
because your girl's gonna make you proud. Your girl's gonna make you proud.
I'm against.
That's all I have to say.
I'm against doing it, but what I have to do at times, I know I have to find the Cliff Notes, and you can get.
There are plenty of Star Wars fans who have made that. It's out there. You just go to YouTube; it is there. I'm just saying.
So you spoiled nothing, because I already know.
Okay.
And that was why, like, remember the other day when we were talking about Thrawn, and I was like, it was tip of my tongue. I was like, who was the guy from Rogue One? What was his name? Was that?
No, that was not Thrawn.
Right, and you were correcting me then, and I was like, no, but
you've heard the name. It was just Rebels.
Right. I was like, why do I know? But see, because I haven't watched.
He has literally a trilogy on him. He has a whole non-canon trilogy on just Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's not like some random dude. He's Grand Legends. Fucking Admiral.
And that
just like Grand Moff Tarkin. It is a thing. You have a title. You're one of the big players in the galaxy. Like, you are that close to the Emperor. The Emperor handpicked Thrawn to be strategic intelligence on things. Like, the dude was literally on par with Palpatine, and Palpatine's like, all right, this works for me.
Now, I was explaining it to
people are already fan casting Thrawn, and I've seen many things about that. So, you losing your mind over there, or did someone just enter your house?
No, I just, I have like all this Star Wars stuff around me, so I have to like
see if you have a physical demonstration that you don't have to pull something up for.
Basically, like, if I don't have to look it up, I'm not going to look it up. But if I have to,
Thrawn is hard to pull up. But if you remember episode 1 of The Witcher,
yes,
the wizard that Geralt of Rivia, or Superman, as you would love to reference him as, Henry Cavill meets.
No, he was Geralt in that.
Yeah, but Geralt meets that mage who's doing all that fucked up shit.
Yes,
and he's being followed. They're trying to make that actor into Thrawn. Well, him and like 3 other guys. There are a lot of people that do resemble Thrawn in some way, shape, or form. It's just you have to capture the poise and the uncanny cruelty and who he is tactically.
So here's the comparison that I made. Grand Moff Tarkin. Episode 4.
A New Hope.
Admiral Thrawn, where would he fall in relation to someone with the rank? Because, and it's important to note, when Grand Moff Tarkin told Vader to sit down,
Vader listened.
Vader sat. Because
because we know the Clone Wars, though.
He was like,
because Anakin had his respect earned for Moff back then. He agreed with him on everything. He's like, we need to be as cruel as him. We need to do that. But no, the Jedi didn't want to listen. So literally, as soon as the order fell, he was like, look, this is my guy. Palpatine, this is my guy. And that was it. Palpatine chose Thrawn. Vader chose Grand Moff Tarkin.
Okay. And I just wanted to have an understanding as to, I guess, like, in terms of
the totem pole or the pecking order.
Right. Like, is a Moff...
Google that real quick.
Like, because a Moff is a title.
Yes.
So what is a Moff to an admiral?
I don't know.
Is Moff higher? I'm thinking Moff has to be higher.
He might be because he created the Death Star. Someone literally Googled this. Grand Admiral is higher rank. Grand Moffs have access to all military assets of any sector, including fleets and commanders. So Grand Admiral is higher, but Grand Moff is able to access more stuff.
Okay, and it's also
that makes Moff Gideon.
It's also worth noting that Grand Moff is a civilian rank, denoting governorship over a large sector, whereas Grand Admiral is a rank within the Imperial military.
Because technically, Tarkin could not have been part of the military as he was human at the time the clones fell. But once they made this switch from stormtroopers being, clones to regular people, he could have assumed a regular role. I mean, we all knew Tarkin was that dude. You tell Vader to sit down and he sits his happy ass down, you're done. Your legend's made.
So technically then, Thrawn would in fact outrank Tarkin because Thrawn is military, where
Thrawn is also higher than Moff Gideon, who we're dealing with now, and we already see he is no fucking joke.
I mean, when Gideon says jump, they say how high. So, without it,
how high, how many times, time, place, date, what place of the moon have to be in alignment. Like they are literally to the exact detail.
Yep. And so it's like I have the information right here. It's available and it's pulled up, but I don't need to bring that up because it's available for whoever wants to look it up.
Wikipedia is a good place to get information. It's actually pretty accurate.
Good place, yes. So Ahsoka Tano, we're going to get back to her. Okay. So now it's important, and the only reason that we're even having the conversation about Thrawn and Tarkin and all of that is because Thrawn becomes a key player in the conversation when you talk about Tano. Because when you get into Rebels, there's the story in Rebels, and of course that also brings back Ezra Bridger. Ezra Bridger was the main character, or he was definitely one of the main characters in the Star Wars Rebels.
Because there's only 5 characters that were the main characters.
Right. So, well, I don't know, because there were a lot of supporting characters who were also kind of important.
I'm saying like Vader, Maul, Ahsoka, Ezra, and Kanan. After that, you didn't give a shit. It was your basic Force users and your main players.
Everybody who was on Ezra's ship or Kanan's ship, because Sabine,
whose name I completely forgot, other than Sabine.
I was about to say, you can't discount Sabine at all.
Because she is Mandalore.
Right.
She's Mandalorian.
Right.
Like, that's who she is. She's that chick.
It's Sabine and Ahsoka at the end of the series, right?
The only 2 survivors from that battle other than Ezra, I think. Right?
Well, when you say survivors, that is where that takes us right back to Ahsoka and Thrawn and Ezra. So here's a little Easter egg. And I'm glad that this may or may not make it because it is what it is. Like, I just like that I'm getting to talk about this finally because this shit's been eating me up. But we know that so many of you were going to wait and binge the season. And that is the only reason we haven't been doing an episode by episode recap for you, because we love you. Don't make us hate it. Next season, you're on your own because we're doing episode by freaking episode.
I have been in absolute hot water for my no spoilers, but I wanted to protect you guys. So, Chris Terry, I'm sorry I took down your post. I'm saying that right now if this ever gets to the light of day. But I said no spoilers.
We agree.
Very heavily in an announcement, and it was an admin across the board announcement.
Yes.
It wasn't like I just went rogue. This is all of our page. This is all of our...
We have...
You want to make sure what it is.
Let me say this. Whenever we have our admins are in a group chat. And whenever we need to discuss admin business, we discuss admin business. And Brent presented it to us in admin chat. And I require that a minimum of 3 admins sign off on any decision, period. A minimum of 3 admins. There are 10 admins. There's very few things that require us to do a full 10 count vote. Very few things.
Nothing's come up to date.
No, I don't think we've only had, in fact, to date, we've only had 1 10 count vote. So
what's that even on?
It was towards the beginning, and actually, it was about at the time, it was we had admins and moderators, and It was about bringing in someone as a moderator.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah, and it was a good choice. We did well.
I am happy with said choice. Yeah. But because that was a big decision, especially given the controversy. Anyway, you know what? That's sidebar. That's not important.
Sidebar.
Whenever we do an admin vote, the only thing that I require, because it's difficult to get all 10 admins, all 11 admins, or 12, or however many fucking admins we have, because it's difficult to get everybody in on everything, I simply require that you have to get signed off by at least 2 other admins. Anytime my admins make a decision in group, it requires signing off by 2 other admins.
And it has to benefit everybody in group. It is not just like this is going to benefit just Sam and his people or just Will and his people. Has to be beneficial for grown A geeks. Period.
And that is why it requires 3 admins minimum for a decision to be made. There are very few things that get done that don't get passed through our admin discussion. And let me just tell you now, my admins are fantastic. They have a 99% chance of backing and support by the other admins. That's just how it goes. It is very rare that an admin is going to do something and have to correct themselves based on what they do. They make the call, I'm going to support it because they probably made the right call.
But coming back in with everything.
So we have been holding off. Yeah, we have been holding off on getting into the daily conversations every Friday or every Saturday after the episodes air.
Because I have it nice. I'm on the West Coast. Therefore, I can watch it because it releases at 3 a.m. Eastern time. It releases at midnight my time. I can just stay up Thursday night, watch it. Don't have to worry about spoilers for the rest of when I go right to bed afterwards.
And for those of us here trying to do that midnight showing and getting up Friday morning, it's brutal. And then
you guys is 3 a.m.
And I'm at work on Friday, and it's like
you have to avoid certain parts of the internet because
people are going to talk about it, and for the most
part, which is why we're trying to protect group.
And that is the only reason why we're not getting into it, because it's like there's so much this season that could have been spoiled, and we've done a really good job. So, Ahsoka Tano
is your girl.
She is looking for
Thrawn.
It is important to note, and we've already tagged this 1,000 times with spoilers, and I'm going to put it spoiler if this ever gets posted. So if you're watching this video at some point and you are not caught up, that is kind of on you. Because we're
talking about all entity Star Wars. It's not like a mild spoiler. Like if you haven't seen Star Wars recent stuff, at least Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau wise, I make zero apologies.
Yeah, this is and a lot of this is older stuff because nothing is new enough that you would not have caught it except for the episode of Mandalorian. And what we're talking about right here was mentioned, but it's referencing stuff that is like old. So you're kind of on your own for that. So at the end of Rebels, Ezra Bridger is trying to take down Thrawn. And in his efforts to do so, he basically gets the space whales. He force communicates to some space whales. They wrap themselves around a Imperial destroyer. And they hit light speed. And they just go. Coordinates unknown. And they're just gone. And because of that, we don't know where they end up. As we've watched in so many cases, whenever you punch in coordinates for like before you jump to light speed, you have to have specific coordinates because obviously if you're moving
hit an asteroid, you can hit a planet, you can hit some random ass ship. I mean, there's so many things that could go wrong that we haven't necessarily seen go wrong.
So you need to plug in your coordinates before you do that. So to randomly jump light speed, because we've actually seen in the new trilogy what happens if you just decide to jump light speed and something's in the way.
Oh shit!
You turn the ship into a weapon and you light speed through other ships. Everything disintegrates. So using space whales, and I don't fully understand that part, but okay. But using
force
space
communication in some sense. I don't know how, but it's there.
We've
Some
seen
force
other
users can instinctively have different abilities.
we've seen how, you know what, we were just talking about it in Rise of Skywalker. Remember the snake?
Yeah, she was literally mind talking to it. And she's like, "Hey, he's cool. Don't jump him. I'm gonna heal him. Don't nobody make funny moves. He still means business, but I can talk with him. He says I'm good."
Now, just to show you that that's really a thing, let's go all the way back to the prequels when Anakin and Obi-Wan and Padme were down in the pit.
Attack of the Clones.
There was the battle that was taking
place.
place.
The bull.
So this isn't just some shit they made up for the movie. This stuff has existed and it's been there. If you've played any video game with Star Wars in between this time, you know that force healing is a thing. So when they brought force healing into the last, Rise of Skywalker, I was like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
But, like that's been a thing,
right? Like that's not. Everyone else was like, wait,
Knights
you
of the Old Republic
that?
on this back like in what 2004,
right?
2002 when that came out.
Wait, you could do
like,
that?
Why'd you wait this long?
That's old. They should have been doing that.
Wasted like 15 years sitting on a great intellectual property that would be an excellent movie. Not saying anything.
So, but
back to the list. There's only one more.
If Ahsoka on that list, Ahsoka is looking for Thrawn. And if Ahsoka's looking for Thrawn and she has found one of his flunkies, that would indicate that Thrawn is, in fact, alive. If Thrawn is alive, and the last time we saw Thrawn, he was on an Imperial destroyer with Ezra Bridger, that would lead Ahsoka to believe that if Thrawn is alive, Bridger's alive. And at the end of Rebels, it is Ahsoka and Sabine who dedicate themselves to going out into space to find Ezra Bridger. Like that is their self-appointed mission to bring him back. Ahsoka because basically she owes her life to him, and Sabine because if you've watched it, you know that that's kind of like that's her dude. So
in some very very weird way,
right?
It's like she's the babysitter in some way. Like why is Star Wars fixated on babysitting turning sexual? In some way, like why is that necessary?
They all got like MILF fantasies. It's weird, but so Ezra Bridger
with Ezra Bridger and Thrawn with their relationship dynamic on top of everything, because they love playing that cat and mouse game. Neither one hates the other. They're just trying to stop each other. They're just on two opposing sides. If you put these two dudes in with similar hobbies, they might actually be friends. But they are literally Professor X and Magneto. They have to go back and forth on things on a much smaller
there's
scale.
Definitely a level of respect there, but that respect is secondary to my objective.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I will finish my mission, even if it means I have to screw you over. Not sorry, but you know how the game's played.
And last but not least, let me just pull the list one more time. Boom. The Mace final list,
Windu.
Number 7, Mace Windu. Now, Mace Windu would be 81 years old, but that would be 81 Force years. And
which means he'd be fine.
Right, he'd be totally okay. And more importantly,
he's never been confirmed dead. George Lucas has never said he died. Favreau hasn't said he died. Bob Iger never said he died. Literally nobody between Disney, Star Wars, or any of their intellectual entities have ever said this man's dead. All he had was his hand cut off and thrown out a window. We've had plenty of people fall from greater heights with their hands gone and survived. Looking at you, Luke.
Palpatine got thrown out a window. No, not out a window. He got thrown down the shaft. Luke fell down the shaft.
Landed on a ship somehow, Mace. Right under it. Thrown out a window.
Thrown out a window. And then you just said him a second ago, Maul.
Yeah, Maul got cut in half, fell in a trash compactor, taken to a separate planet, survived only on his hatred, and then rebuilt himself, albeit losing his mind. I'm a Maul fanboy. Sorry if you guys have to suffer through that. said many times on record, Maul and Palpatine are like my two people I will absolutely fanboy over. I prefer the Sith. I'm just gonna also get that on record.
Nothing wrong with the dark side. Nothing wrong with the dark side.
And there is one more on the list who's technically not on the list, which is why I feel this list is missing, because Kyle Katarn would be alive during this time period.
Yeah.
He could be retconned because in Legends, he is specifically the person who goes out to stop the Dark Trooper Initiative, which, as we saw in the last episode, Moff Gideon has literally made Death Troopers basically a real thing. I mean, I don't know if they're robots or they're people. They move very robotically. I don't know how they got all the schematics for that worked out, but I mean, it does feel weird that they went from clones to people. Now they're going to robots. I mean, you could have just stuck with clones, but that's neither here nor there. Kyle Katarn, who I believe, and don't quote me on this, is also listed as the hero of Tython. If you guys aren't familiar with Star Wars Jedi Knights, I want to say. Jedi Outcast, I want to say. See, Kyle.
The game is Jedi Outcast.
Yeah, Jedi Outcast from the Jedi Knight series. It's 5 video games for the Jedi Knight series. Star Wars Lethal Alliance. I mean, the dude is very famous. He was trained by Luke in the Legends community. He rose up to Master, and he was very high up on the new Jedi Order that Luke made when he was the Grand Master. He did a lot of stuff with the Yuuzhan Vong, which is also another Legends piece there. He did a lot of stealth missions, I want to say, recon missions of that nature. And he was in charge of stopping, I don't remember if it was Thrawn at the time who was doing the battle droids or who originally was working with the Death Troopers, but his job was basically shut it down. And he shut it the fuck down. So Kyle Katarn would be my personal choice, but if I get Cal Kestis, I will not complain in the slightest.
Now, it is also worth noting that Kyle Katarn, his story takes place 8 years after the Battle of Yavin.
Which is, we're at year 9.
So he's out there. And if you played through the game, and that's again why he said that's, it's unofficial, but it's official. Because it is unofficial in that his story takes place in Legends. And because Legends is no longer canon, we don't know if Disney is going to include them as him being there. He spends a good bit of his time hunting down the Jedi Dasan, the dark Jedi Dasan, who is basically, at this point, there are no Jedi, there are no Sith, there are just Force users, and Dasan is like
the strongest of what's left over.
Right. You have your protagonist, you have your antagonist. That he's just he's the opposition in this game. Jedi Outcast, fantastic series. You have Star Wars Jedi Knight, Star Wars Jedi Knight 2. Jedi Knight 2 is Outcast. And then later on, you have Star Wars Jedi Academy, which takes place after the events of Jedi Knight 2. And with Jedi Outcast, you play through moving along as Kyle Katarn, and then when you start Jedi Academy, Kyle Katarn is assisting in the rebuilding of the Jedi Order, a school being opened by Luke.
So, I mean, everything fits time-wise and chronologically. So it's there. The pieces are in place. It's just, I would love to see them do this. It's just for those super unfamiliar with Star Wars, what is considered Legends is pre-Disney. Anything George Lucas, Lucasfilms, all that did before Disney bought them.
All Legends. Of the books. Let's almost say
they have new material.
All of the books. Any book that came out before Disney bought Star Wars. So like all of those stories that gave you the answers that you didn't get from the movies, all the continuations,
like Dark Empire, Shadows of
even
Dathomir, some of the Vader stuff.
even the stuff of like Ben Solo.
Because they literally stole his story and then they made that to the crappy trilogy that was.
Right. And the character of Ben Solo was actually supposed to be what was that character's name? It wasn't Ben.
It was one of the Solo kids, though.
Right, because the Solo kids are supposed to be twins.
Yeah, because there was a brother and a sister. I thought there was 3 of them. Because they have a strong-ass sister, too, that Mara Jade Skywalker. She's a absolute badass. If you
now, Mara Jade... Wait a minute now. Isn't Mara Jade Luke's wife?
Oh, yeah, Mara Jade becomes Luke's wife, yeah.
And they have a kid. Their kid's name is Ben.
Yep, that's why I got confused.
Ben Skywalker is totally different than Han's kids. Han Solo has 2 kids.
It's always the Solos messing shit up, right?
Right.
Not the Skywalkers. Not that we got 9 movies out of the Skywalker debacle.
But that's
How Not to Raise a Kid.
Jason Jada. No, Jason Jaina.
Yeah, Jason Solo?
No, Jace. Jace Solo and Jaina Solo.
Okay.
And
Jaina's a badass in her own right, too.
Right. And it is Ben Skywalker who is the son of Luke and Mara Jade. But they actually took the Ben character and turned him into the Ben Solo character.
Which turned into,
But they took elements.
Kylo Ren.
But they took elements of...
They took a lot of good elements and made it garbage.
Right, because they took elements of Jace and Jaina's story.
It's like, I appreciate they respected legends, but do a good job if you're gonna
respect it.
Yeah, don't shit on it after you've acknowledged that it's there. But for what the point I was trying to say, anything pre-Disney, legends. Anything that has been made since Disney bought them is now canon. Anything before that is crap other than the originals. They did nothing about the originals or the prequels. Those are all canon. Those all stand the test of time. Those are what they are. There are some continuity errors here, but hey, I didn't say it was a good test of time.
I was gonna say, I don't know if they stand the test of time. They're there, but
the originals, yes, because no one's gonna hate the originals. You hate the originals, you just hate life. I don't know how to help you.
If you hate the originals, you need to kind of research Star Wars and figure out if this is for you.
Because if you just literally all you have to do is watch Empire Strikes Back. If you don't like that movie, there's nothing I can do to help you. You can nitpick Return of the Jedi. You can nitpick the hell out of A New Hope. You can destroy the prequels.
Is there anything else you need to say about Grogu? Because since you just mentioned Star Wars, the prequels and stuff, like, oh, you know what? Let's get back to that other part. Because I think one of the biggest arguments that people have about is Luke Skywalker what's the comparison? Like, you have Mary Sue. What's the male version of a Mary Sue?
I don't even know if there is one. I believe Mary Sue stereotype was more or less created just to be sexist because we couldn't let women have their day of being just badass characters.
No,
I know there's probably one, but I don't know it off the top of my head, unfortunately.
Let's see.
Like, what is the male counterpart to Mary Sue? Because, I mean, that argument has been raging in the community ever since her character was created and or finished. Hopefully finished. Please no more. Don't make me see Rey again. Because every actor who was in the new trilogy has already said that they're not coming back. They want nothing to do with Star Wars. I mean, Harrison Ford said the same thing.
Gary Stu. You have Mary Sue, and a male version is a Gary Stu.
Sounds like a horrible broth, but okay. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, Luke Skywalker is not a Gary Stu. I almost said Mary Sue. He is not, because he had actual training. He had piloting skills already pre-done there. He got trained by Yoda himself. He trained for several years between Empire and Return of the Jedi. He was already awarded the rank of Jedi Knight as opposed to nobody, Rey. And then he defeated a Sith Lord and could have taken that mantle if he'd wanted to. Yes, Sam.
Let's just go with his first movie. I'll be generous.
Are we counting the Legends editions? Because Legends makes him like the least Mary Sue. He is not Gary Stu.
Let's just count his first movie.
Okay. Just A New Hope. Just off the bat.
New Hope. You said he already had piloting skills.
He was training to be part of the Empire Academy. That was what he was wanting to do with his buddies on the side. That obviously never came to fruition because, he had to go get moisture converters. And he had to go get some droids to take care of that. And then one thing led to the other. Next thing you know, he's saving the galaxy.
That's based on That's based on what?
Legends. That is what he wanted to do his whole time. He wanted to do it with his buddies, Wedge Antilles and Biggs Darklighter, who are pilots for the Rebel Resistance.
So is there anything in the movie that substantiates that?
There's nothing in the movies that substantiates that. It's all Legends.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really sad because, it was a really good story.
So in other words...
I have nothing factual to back up my evidence because it is non-canon.
Even if it was canon, let's just throw that in there for a minute. So just based off of the movies, which in order to make a fair comparison to say that, because ultimately what I'm hearing you say is that in order for Rey to not be a Mary Sue, all we need is to write some fucking books that explain the stuff that you don't have explained to you on screen, right?
Which no one would buy, but yeah,
Wait. I'm just trying to make sure and establish that what makes her a Mary Sue compared to what makes Luke a Gary Stu
is more or less sheer dumb luck winning the day as opposed to you were actually trained to succeed.
So if we just base it off the movies.
Because Luke uses the Force to kill a Wampa. Luke uses the Force to kill a Rancor.
No.
Luke uses the Force to take down Boba Fett.
Back up. Go to the first movie.
Where he didn't even know he was Force sensitive.
And again, that's why when we started this conversation, I said, if you just look at The Force Awakens, she is not a Mary Sue. Now, they screw it up.
Oh, they screwed it all the hell up.
In the next two movies. But if you just base it off of The Force Awakens, she's not a Mary Sue.
Because she was a scavenger, and that was it. That was all she knew what to do.
Really?
There was no other empirical evidence upon anything.
She clearly states on 2 occasions that she's capable of flying a ship. Let me refresh you.
Who was she talking to at that
Finn.
point in time? When he just randomly shows up and the whole day goes screwy.
Okay, so now Finn randomly showing up. Is that his fault or is that Poe's fault or is that her fault? Don't blame.
It's the fault of poor writing.
Do not blame her the fact that he randomly shows up. Because let's just go back to our first introduction to Rey.
Such a good story.
The very first time we see Rey. She is covered in garb, head to toe. She's got her mask on and everything. She's inside of this Imperial ship that's been crashed and whatnot. You know what I'm saying?
Imperial Star Destroyer.
Imperial Star Destroyer. She's inside. The very first thing we say, she looks in, she reaches over, she grabs out this item, she looks at it, she moves it around, she grabs another item. She's like, okay, this is the item. That shows her intelligence because she can discern between what items are good, what items are bad. She puts that item in her bag.
So they could have established she's a mechanic at this point.
Okay, the littlest things, littlest details. So she reaches over, she grabs the rope. You see how far she slides down said rope? Okay, so that means she's a little fearless right there. She's not scared. She's been doing this for a while. She can handle this. This is
she was
normal
dropped
for her.
off when she was like 5. So yeah, hopefully she's got it good by now.
She can handle this. This doesn't scare her. So she goes all the way down that rope. She goes outside. She gets on the little thing. She slides down the hill. She goes to her speeder. She takes out her little components and whatnot. She sticks them in the net. She hops on the speeder. She rides back to town, right? So far, nothing special. She's just a girl. She's a scavenger. We see her get to town, and she's like brushing off all the little pieces and whatnot, cleaning the stuff in the dirt. She looks over at the old woman. I'm sorry to do a play-by-play, but she looks over at the old woman. She sees the old woman, and at that moment, you don't really know what she's thinking. After you've watched the movie a couple of times, you've seen it as many times as I have, you realize she's looking at that woman thinking to herself, am I going to be that old and still doing this exact same thing like her?
Because they actually did a good shot for shot on that. That one I triggered the first time we saw that movie, because we saw that movie together with our friend Roy.
We did. And so at that moment where you can look and see, because we don't know that she's orphaned and we don't know that she's been left on this planet. We don't know that she's waiting on someone to come and get her. But when you go back with that information and you see the way she looks at that old woman with that, like, please.
Well, we know she's waiting because she says so later on in this first film.
She does.
Because she has a conversation with Finn.
Moments later, we see her in her room scratching another line in the wall. And when you see that wall and all the lines, she's been there for a minute. And then when we get the flashback, we see she was a little kid, but I'm fast forwarding. Let me go back to where I was. So she's scrubbing off the parts. She looks at the old lady. She sees that. She goes up to
the junkyard guy.
The junkyard guy.
In charge of, he's a trader, more or less.
Right. She goes up.
You give him your crap, he pays you food for it.
She goes up to him and she's like, I have these parts. And he's looking at these parts. He's like, this will get you a quarter portion. She's like,
which turned into the greatest GameStop meme.
Right. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? She's like, that's all? Okay, fine. She goes back to, because remember now, somebody had pointed out she's homeless on a junk planet. Like,
Jakku.
She goes to this AT-AT that's been destroyed. She has built an entire living facility inside that.
Basically, I thought that was an AT-ST.
Okay,
was it the little one or is it the big one?
It looked like the bigger one because it felt.
If
like
it's the big one, then it'd be
space.
AT-AT. Yeah,
see, I felt like it had adequate space because you see her go out and she sits there because it's not just the one that you like sit on top. It looks like the one that you get in because she's got plenty of space to like walk around inside.
Yeah, that'd probably be AT-AT. You'd be right.
So
semantics, but yeah, continue. Sorry.
So she's in there and she's like, she grabs a bottle of water. She gets her little stuff. She pours water. She puts a little powder in. It makes her bread. And she's got her little gruel and whatnot. And she goes out and she's got like the little doll set up. And the doll that she has set up in there has on the orange Rebel jumpsuit and whatnot. You know what I'm saying?
The Rebel helmet and whatever. And she puts that on.
Out, she's got the Rebel helmet on. Boom. This is the character that we have. This is all we have from her. Fast forward to the next time we see her. BB-8. She hears BB-8. She goes to see what it is. The guy Tito. Now, I've got Disney Plus, and as I've got Disney Plus, I've seen all these other little like shorts and things like that. But we're not going to include any of that yet. I will bring that back later on as it is just like it's canon now because it's come out after Disney acquired. So anything they put out now is canon. But at that time, all we see is Tito. Tito's on the little robotic horse thing, you know what I'm saying? And she's like, your antenna's bent. She's trying to straighten up the antenna. And she's like, no, you can't go with me. You need to go that way. Go a couple towns over, blah, 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 blah. She starts to leave. And then she looks back. She's like, okay, fine. Come on. And, BB-8's all happy to be with her. Fast forward again. She could trade in BB-8 and she could get all of those like 63 portions.
Well, she could just be like a good human being and realize like, hey, this is my friend. You probably shouldn't trade friends for food.
This is the friend. This is her friend. She just met it like 20 minutes ago.
It's her only friend because you can tell on the planet she's been alone forever.
I think she realizes there's something more to this droid simply because she was immediately about to get 63 portions
She literally just jumped on the counter to grab that thing. She was
right. Like, her first reaction was like, "Oh hell yeah!" Then she's like, "Wait."
I think the moral dilemma hit afterwards. I want to say it's morals, but you can say it's instinct. We have nothing to support our general statement.
Whatever it was, 63 portions were given. She started to take it. She stopped. She looks over. She decides not to take the portions, and she tells BB-8, "Come on." That to me is her saying, like, okay, something about you is important. I don't know what. Something about you. I'm not even going to say that it had anything to do with anything other than her realizing, if you'll pay me 63 portions for this robot is worth something. Let me wait and see what's happening with this robot. Now, fast forward to Finn showing up. Finn shows up. BB-8 reacts to Finn. She immediately goes over, boom, 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 takes Finn down with her little staff. You know what I'm saying?
She's had to fend for herself for years, so I mean,
now mind you,
implies some level of self-defense.
When they tried to capture BB-8, she took out the other traitors that were right there. Because remember, Finn was getting ready to run over and protect her, and then he realized, like, oh crap, no, she's got this. Okay, cool.
She's got some moves. She's good. All right, okay, I can just walk over. Don't gotta hustle.
That's when BB-8 actually recognizes Finn. You know, the jacket that he has on, because he's got on Poe's jacket, and BB-8's like, hey. So she walks up. She's like, hey, you. And of course, Finn's trying to get away. She circles around, gets in front of him, boom, knocks him down. She's like, you know, my friend here says that you stole that jacket, blah, 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 right? Fast forward. The stormtroopers are coming, or the stormtroopers see him, and they're trying to escape from that, and then he's listening. He hears the air support coming in and whatnot. They take off running. Boom, boom, boom. And he's like, look. She's like, if we get over to that light jumper, we can get away. The light jumper
she has
blows
a base understanding of what an imperial, just a regular ship is, which just most people should have a basic understanding of.
Basic flying. She is saying, he's like, we need a pilot. They're running. She says, you've got one. He says, we need a pilot. She says, you've got one. Now, remember when this movie was first marketed to us, at no point did they show Rey with the lightsaber.
No, because they were trying to scheme a certain race class, which they unfortunately
were trying to market Finn, because they showed Finn with the lightsaber, called it The Force Awakens. We knew this girl was in it, but we didn't know who she was. And then if you're watching the scene for the first time, you hear her say, he's like, I need a pilot. She says, you've got one. Oh, so now we have our Jedi and we have our smuggler. We've got our pilot. We've got our Jedi character. Boom. And he's like, oh, no, we're not going to take that thing over there. It's a piece of trash. Da, 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 da. We'll take the light jumper. Light jumper blows up. The trash will do. She runs over. What is the trash? The freaking Millennium Falcon.
Because that thing is hot garbage, but it has saved the day on a minute. Old reliable.
They get into the Millennium Falcon. She hops in the seat, starts flipping switches. Boom, boom, boom. She looks around for a second. She starts maneuvering. The very first thing we see is the ship like lean a little heavy to one side. We see it kind of teeter. It doesn't really take off smoothly and whatnot. After about 5-10 minutes, she's now flying the ship. I made the comparison that if you could drive a car, it doesn't matter if it's a U-Haul truck, a Ferrari, or a golf cart. The basics of driving are the same.
Yeah. Just what speed and what size vehicle you are. It's like
you will have to take a moment to adjust to your vehicle. But if you have only driven U-Haul trucks and then somebody gives you the keys to a Ferrari, you're going to know how to drive it.
You're just going to haul ass.
You're probably going to grind the gears a little bit if you got to drive it like a manual, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It takes some getting used to. It takes that moment to adjust, but it doesn't take long. So, if she has any kind of basic piloting skills.
So what you're saying, she has a basic piloting skill and she has basic self-defense, so therefore she's not a Mary Sue.
I'm saying that based on those two things, don't make it seem like her flying the Millennium Falcon is some great feat.
Which Luke also had. He was training for the Pilots Academy.
But you're still basing that off of Legends. From the only thing we had from Luke, from the movie
was that he was a moisture farmer with
no,
Uncle
not even
Owen
that he
and
was a
Emperor.
moisture farmer. Because remember, when they have the whole conversation, he was like, he wanted to do something. He wanted to get off this rock, blah, 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 blah.
Which was the Imperial Academy.
He talks about, when they talk about the shot that has to be made, he was like, oh, that shot's not that hard to make. We used to do that down at Beggar's Canyon and shoot wampa rats, da-da-da-da-da. So you mean to tell me the rebels, the rebellion army, is going to give this kid that nobody knows keys to an X-Wing, put him up in space, and trust the important mission to him?
They didn't necessarily entrust it to him. He was there by default. The rebel. Remember, you saw Rebels. They were literally taking anybody who said, "Hey, fuck the Empire." That was all they were doing. That was their whole argument. If you said fuck the Empire, you can do it.
You got all these people who have been with you all this time. This wasn't a suicide run.
It was definitely a suicide run. They were outgunned, outmanned, and outfinanced. There was no way the Death Star run was by any means an even battle. There is no way in hell that should have gone the way it did.
Every one of those red leaders who signed in to go for that mission was a qualified pilot, already a part of their battle. And wasn't Wedge already there?
Wedge was there, but he was a side character. He was doing something else at the time.
Okay,
besides Han Solo saved the day, and he was a rebel smuggler with zero training for anything Rebel Alliance. He just showed up. I mean, he was an amazing pilot. We're not gonna.
Okay. But his amazing piloting skills are the only thing that allow. But I just want to point out, Darth Vader in his custom TIE fighter gets behind Luke,
and we know Anakin's an amazing pilot. No one's ever said anything otherwise.
Now, at the time this came out, we knew nothing about any of that. All we knew was that Darth Vader was in his special custom TIE fighter. He got down there in the pits, and they was flying through, and boom, 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 and he gets blown out the way, and he's not there anymore. And this kid who's been on a farm, been on a moisture farm for all this time, and knows he knows how to shoot wampa rats at 20
Remember
meters.
That Obi-Wan said, what was that phrase he said? It was 3 magical words.
Use the Force? Oh, okay. This thing he heard about an hour before?
Yeah, but he still used it. I mean, remember Rey had no Jedi training, but yet what
Jedi training did Luke have at that point?
Literally base instincts.
But she can't. Because here's what I'm gonna say. You say she forced mind trick somebody.
You're picking for one movie when you need the whole trilogy to make the argument.
No. And that's my point. That is exactly my point. You cannot tell me that Luke wasn't a Gary Stu. You cannot fault Rey for what she did based on what Luke did. If you take their one movie arc, because first let me ask you this. Do you agree, believe, think, or is there any valid point to The Force Awakens being a rehash of A New Hope?
It was almost pan for pan in certain instances, but then they strayed in others. Okay. Because Luke accomplished more in his one movie than Rey did. Because if you remember, she was knocked the fuck out for the whole ending. Finn was the real hero. He had the secrets of the Death Star, and he saved Rey. That was what needed to get done. He got it done.
Okay, so let me refresh you.
Rey was basically Princess Leia.
Have you watched this movie since we were at the theater?
Yes, like once.
Okay.
Just to remember what I was missing, because I mean, this movie I loved it in theaters. I told you how much I fucking love this.
Okay,
I loved the direction they were going, and
I just want to remind you of some things because apparently you've forgotten about a lot of this movie. So let me talk about this part.
The only thing Rey does with the Force is a mind trick on 007, which is just a regular stormtrooper. I know it's Daniel Craig under there though. But
right, but let me tell you why that's even relevant or why that's even a thing. Let's go back a little bit. Now, at the time Luke does everything that he does, it is just his blind faith in old Ben Kenobi. Ben Kenobi says, hey, your father was a Jedi. He doesn't ask what's a Jedi. Apparently, at the time Luke is around, Jedis are still a thing. People still know what Jedis are. So it's not shocking for him to hear that his father.
Well, it's
was
only
a Jedi.
been like 18 years since the Jedi Order fell. So I mean, it's still
okay. And I'm
fresh.
not disputing that. That is the point that I am making. So when he hears that it's a Jedi, it's not make believe. It's like, oh wow, okay. Oh, my father was a Jedi. It's like, oh, I want to be a Jedi like my father before me. Like he immediately just dedicates his entire existence to this thing that he was told by this random guy.
He had nothing else to live for. He was trying to get off that rock. Being a Jedi was his way off the rock.
And you don't think that that's just some kind of magical? Okay, you know what? You're not going to upset me with this. You're not. All right. So, Luke then decides that he's going to go and just follow this guy. Now, mind you, I understand that he's off with Ben. He comes back and, like, his family's dead.
Oh, yeah. Boba Fett incinerated him. In Legends, it was Boba Fett who did the work himself, which is why Boba Fett and Vader in Empire, Vader literally looks at Boba, points at him, and says, I want them alive. Because he doesn't want Boba to do what Boba did last time.
Okay. Nifty little tidbit there. So I get that his family was dead. He has nothing else to live for, so he might as well follow old Ben, this hermit that he knows so well. You know what I'm saying? Like he's.
I'm not saying it was good sage advice.
Such great friends,
like homeless dude, basically.
Such great friends.
Like Rey literally gave up her whole existence because First Order trooper showed up at her doorstep with a droid. It's not much better. It's still a random ass person.
And actually, no, because if you think about it, what was she doing? She was trying to figure out why Finn kept grabbing her hand. She didn't understand that part. All she knew is people were shooting at her. She thought he was part of the rebellion.
Because he's a horrible, horrible liar.
People were shooting at her, and all she was trying to do was stay alive. Now, after they go through the little bit of, flying around the Millennium Falcon and whatnot, they see the trash. It gets wrecked a little bit. They hit this, they hit that. They finally fly around. They get around. The guns aren't shooting. She's flying and whatnot. Now, he already has taken out, like, two of the...
He takes out two, and then the Star Destroyer takes out one because one just didn't know how to fly the gap.
Okay, so they're flying, and she realizes that the one thing is stuck, and she's like, okay, hey, could somebody help me out right here? Yes. She flies it straight up. You know what I'm saying? The ship is coming up behind him. He has like the clear open shot. Boom, 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 boom. He takes that out. She re-engages the boosters and they fly off and they launch and they go into orbit. They run over. He's like, oh my God, that was such amazing flying. She's like, oh my God, that was such amazing shooting. She then says, and go back and watch it if you have to. She says, I've flown other ships before, but I've never gone into orbit.
I'll have to go back and watch it against my will because
it's
a horrible mission.
Fast forward to that scene. Fast forward to that scene. Now, she's flown ships before, but she's never gone into orbit. That just indicates that she has basic piloting skills. If your life depended on you being able to drive and get away from somebody and not die, do you think you could handle that in a car? Matter of fact, I'm going to give you the keys to a random vehicle. Could you drive that vehicle well enough to maybe not die?
As long as it's not stick, maybe. There's a chance.
There you go.
If it's stick, that's a quick chase. I just get out, put my hands on my head. Sorry. Good luck.
And that would be the way to think of it. And that's the only thing I'm trying to point out. If we believe we've not seen any evidence of Luke's ability to fly anything.
Up till that point.
When you look at episode 4, we've not seen Luke's ability to fly anything. What we see,
all he had was that Land Cruiser, and that's not flying. So
right, that is hovering. Yeah. That is like driving a car. That is simply hovering. We see that. We see him on the ship holding the lightsaber, talking to Obi-Wan, and the little thing is like shooting at him, and you know what I'm saying? He's like, pew, 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 he's getting hit. You know what I'm saying? Like he's trying to block the little blaster bolts and whatnot. So in this short period of time, he's already accepted that the Force is real, that he's a Jedi.
He did in fact use it to deflect a couple blaster bolts.
Not taking that away from him. And I'll even go as far as to say that, you know what? It's Luke freaking Skywalker. We know his M count is extremely high.
Oh, yeah, because in non-canon, he is the strongest Force wielder in the entire Legends community. He's better than Yoda. Like, his Force feats are legendary.
I mean, we've seen what he can do.
I mean, he Force projected himself across the galaxy, but I mean, it killed him, but he still did it. As of where some of those feats in Legends are like, you just see it and you can't not be impressed by what he does.
So I'm not taking anything away from his inherent ability and his natural talent, what makes him Luke Skywalker, and the fact that he can do what others potentially can't. But let me ask you this. What do you think her M count is?
Considering she's a Palpatine, it's probably up there.
Not saying it's on Luke's level. Not trying to say it's up there like that. But it ain't low. She ain't your average Force sensitive.
I mean, yet her Force feats were such garbage. Like, movie-wise, she did so little with the Force. It was painful.
Maybe because she had no freaking training.
And no freaking good writers.
But I mean, isn't that the main argument everybody's trying to make? She had no training. She didn't do anything because she didn't know what she could do.
Yeah, because she had the what?
She did
like a week of Luke, and then she had like a month of Leia.
She had them. Well, we don't know how much time passed in between that.
Yeah, no one specified particularly. I don't think there's a book out there, but I haven't honestly looked because that's one part of canon I want to remain dead and unexplored.
Now, just sticking with the first movie again. So the next time we see or hear anything about her, we've established that she's fairly competent as a mechanic, right? Now, actually, let's back up just a little bit.
You already covered the mechanic and pilot adequately.
Okay, because I got like 5 more points for that. I'll make them really brief, really quick. There is the conversation she's having with Han inside the cockpit.
When she rips out she bypassed the compressor.
Bypass the compressor, something like that, yeah. She's actually making a suggestion of something they could do. He says it at the same time, indicating that she obviously has like some knowledge and capability with that. We see when she's underneath and they're trying to hide them and the little alien things are like eating up stuff. And she's like, oh, wait, if we bypass this and do that, da-da-da-da-da. You know what I'm saying? So she's like trying to formulate a plan. Again,
it goes awry, but she had a plan at least.
She's got that street smarts. You know what I'm saying? She's like, again, not afraid to take that chance. Now, skip all of that. Fast forward, land where they're going into Maz Kanata's bar, brothel, Cantina. Thank you. When they land the ship, Han Solo, that whole like offering her a job kind of thing, somebody I was having a conversation with, it was like, oh, that was just supposed to make it seem like like she's so great, even the old heads respect her. No, it ain't got nothing to do with that. Han says verbatim, you clearly respect the Falcon and you know your way around. We could use an extra hand.
Which is Han's, basically that's the nicest thing you're get out of Han Solo.
Bingo.
Biggest compliment is he just gives you a compliment. It could be backhanded even. It's still a compliment.
The fact that
I'm not taking that away. But I'm trying to say, like, we're trying to cover, Force feats?
Now,
for the first movie? Only?
Okay, so fast forward. Now they're at Maz Kanata's, right?
Force vision.
She hears the calling. She's like, what is that? What is that? Huh. She goes into the room. She opens up the chest. We now know that's called a Force Echo. She touches the lightsaber.
What do you mean now? No, Force Echo has been around since Knights of the Old Republic, and we all know this. But I mean, if you're talking movie wise, yeah, this is the first time Force Echo has been established.
Thank you. That's just like we hadn't seen Force healing in a movie, but we knew it existed.
Yeah.
So we get a Force Echo where she touches a lightsaber, and all of this stuff is triggered.
Because it was Anakin's lightsaber. There's going to be a lot of fucked up memories on that shit.
So basically, take any bad feeling you have and manifest that.
Because the Kyber crystal holds on to every good and or bad strong memory in its blade. So that's why some lightsabers turn red. Because it's a now, Kyber crystal of hatred.
The Kyber crystals are actually imbued with hatred in order to turn them red. That's like a whole thing.
That is also true, yeah.
That's a whole thing in and of
Thank you,
itself.
Darth Bane.
I'm just saying.
Rule of 2, baby.
So right there, her Force Echo, that taps into something she didn't know existed. She doesn't know that she's Force sensitive. But keep in mind that maybe an hour before that, she was just having a whole conversation with Han, and she was like, oh, Luke Skywalker, you actually know him. I thought that was just a myth. And he's like,
I met the dude. Like, he's basically
true.
My brother.
Like, no, it's true. All of it, the Force. So here's this thing that her whole life she's been hearing is a legend, a myth, something that doesn't exist. And suddenly somebody that she respects and can see in the flesh who has been a legend this whole time tells her like, oh yeah, oh that shit really happened.
Yeah, because it's only been like, what, 20, 30 years since?
Keep in mind,
40?
by the time we get here, keep in mind that
old, Luke's old, Leia's old, because they were young.
Right. You already have all of that time. You have that 18 to 20 years that passed where Jedi were being hunted down and nobody was talking about Jedi. Then you have that time from when Luke was like in his 20s up until she's born. And she's clearly like, what, 18 to 20 herself?
Hopefully. So
we're obviously talking about a gap of about 40 years where nobody's really talking about Jedi. There's some hush-hush conversations.
You do remember they were raising an academy at that time, right?
They were what?
Luke was making an academy. Ben was at that the whole time while this movie was taking place. But it just was in obscurity.
But do you
it wasn't like common knowledge. It was like,
do you think this is something that they're talking about on Jakku?
On Jakku, no, they're not talking about
crap. Now, keep in mind that when Luke was actually trying to create this academy, how old was Solo? How old was Ben?
Well, we saw he was like what, maybe 10 when Luke tried killing him. That was the only shot we got. Was Luke was like, I've had enough. Luke wasn't even gray. He was trying to kill him.
In fairness, since they used Adam Driver for that scene as well, and they used Adam Driver for Kylo Ren, and it was the same Adam Driver for both scenes, they really imply that it was only like a couple of years ago.
But somehow Luke aged like 30 years between that shot and that shot.
You know what I'm saying? It was really just a matter of he hadn't got a haircut after that. You know what I'm saying?
It's like they could have just changed the actors for that scene. It wouldn't have changed anything.
Look, if I go and get a haircut right now, I would literally lose 10 years easy. I would look in my 30s just by getting a haircut because all this excess gray that's in my face would go away. I get a haircut and you would not see that much gray, and therefore I would look easily 10 years younger. And I think that's the case here. But the point being that when you have that scene take place, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not common
Jedi
knowledge.
Weren't mainstream, but also it wouldn't matter if it was mainstream or not. She's on freaking Jakku. That is like as backwater gets. Like, it makes Tatooine look like it's a 5-star resort, which we all know.
The only reason any of that conversation probably comes up is because this planet had fallen and destroyed not Death Star components, but like they had
Empire.
Yeah, like Imperial ships are like destroyed and in the sand. That's what they're scavenging.
Because they had a battle there of Jakku, like 5-10 years past that they have confirmed is something that did happen. Some ragtag group.
So the fact that battle took place is going, you know what I'm saying? Like the legend Luke Skywalker, you know what I'm saying? Like That's one of those things. So when she hears the name Luke Skywalker, of course, she perks up. She goes by, she touches the lightsaber. The lightsaber triggered a force echo. So now her force powers are activated. You know what I'm saying? Like something inside her is unlocked that she didn't know was there before.
Her M count.
Actually, I'm not even going to say her M count was any different. Literally, it is just a matter of
trying to apply her M count to actual everyday
Here's some
activities.
stuff that she never thought about or never believed. You know what? And I would even go as far as to say something as far as like perhaps the reason she was a bit more capable in self-defense, perhaps the reason that she could discern the better components, the reason she wasn't afraid, all of that is going to be like controlled by the Force. Because anybody who doesn't think the Force manipulates what it needs to manipulate to balance itself is on some other shit. Like, we didn't just make Anakin exist.
Well, Anakin was made to exist and non-canon by Palpatine literally Force impregnating Shmi. But, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day.
But the point being, the Force does what the Force needs to do.
Yeah, because in Clone Wars, we saw it very prevalently. They had the father, the son, and the daughter. The Force was always in balance. Whenever it was about to fall out of balance, it always recorrected itself. It wasn't like this was just some random process that either the son or the daughter was like, look, no, fix this shit right now. And then it fixed itself. That was it.
And in this case, who are the three most powerful Force users? Rey?
Which time for? Well, it's Rey, Kylo, and Sidious. Gotcha. I know you're looking for Luke.
So no. Because Luke has actually stated he's cut himself off from the Force. At the time. He severed
that
his
Skywalker and Rogue in him where he's like, he gets a little up in his feelings. The next thing you know, he's in isolation having a tantrum.
He severed his connection to the Force, and that's why his Force projection was such a big thing, because that means he had to reestablish his connection to the Force.
And he reestablished himself that strongly, which is nuts.
I mean, for him, it's kind of like flipping a switch. For everyone else, it's totally different.
Yeah, because of his last name.
Because keep in mind, and also...
You come with the expectations.
No.
It'd be like being the kid of Michael Jordan and everyone is expecting you to be good at basketball.
Hold on, but I also want to throw these couple of things out here, okay? Luke, at the end of Empire...
Our Return of the Jedi? Which one? Because Empire's 2, Return of the Jedi was the conclusion.
I know. The end of Empire... He leaves. Well, I guess it's like 3/4 of the way. He leaves his training. He's been training with Yoda. Maybe
a couple of days at most. At most, that's being generous. It was maybe even a couple.
I was going to say maybe a week. I was going to say maybe a week.
That's being generous, even. So
because there's nothing. Well, there's that whole, and this was just like way too much research into the Millennium Falcon with the hyperdrive being down, and they had a 10 times backup hyperdrive. How long it would take for them to get to Cloud City? Blah, 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 blah. So, point is, he left his training to go save his friends. Yoda said, "Don't leave. You're not ready." Luke said, "I have to go." He left.
He had to go. He had to.
He left.
Who else was going to save his friends from the Dark Lord of the
I agree. I get it.
Luke wasn't ready.
There is
Yoda was right, but they were both right was the shitty thing.
Right.
Luke wasn't ready, but Yoda was like, look, dude, this is all you got. Like, you can't leave. Luke was like, what are my options? My friends die, who I just met a couple years ago, or I become really strong and avenge them. Luke did not want to get his honorary Avengers card.
So, he goes, gets his ass kicked, loses a hand.
Off.
Right, loses handle on the situation.
Puns.
Doesn't have a good grip on what's happening.
Hey, give me a thumbs. Oh.
You know what? He could point out what was going wrong? Okay, enough hand jokes. So anyway,
that's enough of that.
That is enough of that. So
that's all I got. Finds the worst secret in absolute movie history. Right. I am your father. Oh shit!
Right.
Well, that explains a lot of things.
Thank you for quoting that properly. Because it's just one of those things. It still kind of irks me when people are like, "Luke, I am your father." That's not what he says. He says, "No, I'm your father." Because he says Obi-Wan never told you what happened. You know what?
Don't worry about it. You said you killed him. No, I am your father.
So,
what the fuck?
Anyway, so you now have the.
Because if you could have thrown an F-bomb in Star Wars, that's where it should have been.
Right. What the fuck? That would be the one F-bomb. Make it PG-13. I'm all for it. So he goes back. He has that battle, loses his arm, falls down the shaft, doesn't die, ends up hanging upside down. They bring the ship up. He drops down, gets in the ship, gets into the Boca tank later. He heals and everything. He's got a missing hand and whatnot. Boom. Movie ends.
Oh, that's the one where they give him a robotic hand. You literally see him on the ship where they're literally in-stitching his new hand. Because the Bacta tank is earlier on in that film. After his fight with the Wampa, which he uses the Force in order to kill that beast. Because he pulls his lightsaber out, slashes that motherfucker up.
Now, at that point...
No training.
No. At that point, I am willing to believe he has another moment where he understands that he has to use the Force. And his only Force things were like, okay, I can't get the targeting right, so let me just close my eyes and take a random shot when I feel it.
Through the Force. Because, I mean, Rey did the same thing with her mind trick. No one taught her that. No one told her about that. She was just like...
I'm still ready to address that. I just want to make sure that I outline all of the bullshit with Luke before we come back to that. Because when I attach that, you're going to look at this totally different. And I want you to be ready for that, okay?
Luke is still a way better character than Rey will ever have been. I will attest that to writing. Like, Luke's arc is significantly better, where he's at least a main character in 2 of the 3 films, as where Rey, you can take her out of the first film and it's not really missing that much. She could have just reasserted herself in the second film. Everything continues as normal with that weird love thing between Palpatine's grandkid and Vader's grandkid. Because, can't make it really weirder.
Yeah, I was a little thrown by that. But... because I want to make sure that I hit this before I hit you with the Rey. So
hit me with the death ray.
He goes into Return of the Jedi. Now, all we know is at the end of Empire, he got a new hand and he was looking out the window. And we don't know what happens after that. And then we start Return of the Jedi, and Luke just
he's a Jedi Knight at that point. He's been knighted.
Did he
it's canon book. He was trained by Yoda. He was given the blessing, the whole spiel, and he was a Jedi.
Canon what? It's
in book.
In book. In which book?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but he was.
Is that Legends?
No, it's canon. Because the book was so well written, when Disney bought it, they're like, we're not changing this. It's the same thing that they did for Biggs and Wedge.
Okay.
Because they didn't touch anything with the original entity. They didn't change their story.
I will say
everything
that
afterwards is different.
Let me say that is news to me.
Yeah, Luke was knighted because remember, Han was even when Han got out of the carbonite, he's like, a Jedi Knight? No way. And then Leia's like, no, dude, Jedi Knight.
So here's what I recall.
Obviously say it that particular way.
Here's what I recall.
Because you remember when he showed up at Jabba's
I have
house,
these droids.
He says, I'm a Jedi Knight.
Right. He's like, I'm the Jedi Knight, Luke Skywalker, da-da-da-da, Jedi Knight, blah, blah, blah. Right. He just announces that that's who I am. And that's why the whole conversation...
You think Yoda was just going to let him walk off and be like, yeah, you're a Jedi Knight?
Because here's the problem I have with that. Since everybody wants to talk about how if it's not on screen, then it didn't happen.
I mean, you can make the same argument for Rey, but there hasn't been a book made to this point.
That is absolutely the point. You say I could make the argument. That is the argument that's made for Rey. All we know is at the end.
The failing of that argument is that Luke didn't knight her. Leia was not capable of knighting her. You have to be a master.
I get that. Knight. And I'm good with that. And at what point does she ever say that she's a Jedi Knight or a Jedi Master? She never does.
No, she just lies about being a Skywalker.
Which is like the dumbest shit ever. But she also...
You would not want to lie about that.
She also didn't know that she had a last name. You know what I'm saying? She didn't even know she had a last name until she finally found out what it was, and she didn't want to claim that. So I'm not tripping on that part of it. When she's in the one little town and the girl asks her, like, you know, you're Rey, what's your last name? She's like, oh, I don't know. I don't have a last name. And then she has like this whole Force vision and all this other shit happens. The stormtroopers start coming in. Getting back to Luke, I want to get to this part because this part is the biggest deal to me. They had to put it in a book. It wasn't shown on screen. What was shown on screen was at the end of Empire Strikes Back, Luke is standing there looking out the window. He just lost a hand.
That is what is visually and cinematically shown, yes.
The next time we see Luke, he has decided that he's a Jedi Knight. Now, I assume...
Well, he's wearing the full garb.
He's got on... No, he's got on all black. I don't see robes.
You remember Anakin, Jedi Knight? Revenge of the Sith, same damn outfit. It's just his was brown.
What I see, because keep in mind that at this time, there's only episodes. There's only episodes.
Really? Why are you doing? No, I'm saying like literally in the movie when Anakin takes on Dooku, Revenge of the Sith, he's literally wearing the same damn outfit. It's just brown. They thought no one would know. We noticed.
He doesn't have the folder. He doesn't have the collar fold.
Because that was the style at the time.
No. See, the whole thing about Luke is that he has on this entirely black outfit, but he has the one interior side showing light, indicating that he's found the balance between the dark and the light. He embraces the dark and he still manages to operate in the light. The issue I have with it is that Luke Skywalker, all of the things that make Luke Skywalker great were put into books after the fact. There wasn't anything that was shown on screen. Everybody wanted to act like Luke did some sort of fantastic shit on screen, that he was just this great individual. Everything great about Luke is written in a book.
You want to hear my case as an argument?
You won't even listen to my case as an argument because you keep pointing out how it's great in this book over here or this book over here. I'm going to point it in
the movies.
It's not even in the movies. That's the point that I'm making. When Luke
I'm making it a separate point to that point.
When Luke comes back in Return of the Jedi, he shows up and he says, I'm a Jedi Knight. We accept that, okay, fine. Maybe he's been out there practicing with his lightsaber. Maybe he got good at it. At the end of that whole Jabba bit and they saved Han and whatnot, what does he say? He says, I'm going to go visit an old friend, Yoda.
It just goes right back.
That makes it sound like this is the first time he's been back. There's nothing to indicate that
he's been back since before he left to go save his friends.
Okay. So then, where did he get his Jedi Knight training?
Yoda.
Okay, hear what you just said, because apparently...
No, it's the first time he's been back since he had to go save them after Bespin. Because shit went awry between Bespin and between Jabba's palace.
Okay, so...
Which happened off screen. There's nothing we can do to fix that.
And I get that. But listen to what you said. He went to go train with Yoda.
He didn't bring his friends. They did not go with him. He went by himself. His friend's plan went awry.
And then they let him know that makes you think wrong. I don't understand that aspect of it. You were not going to take Lando. Okay, so you're about to start making me bang, and we're just going to stop this recording because I need to pick up the phone so we can talk because I don't understand what part of what I'm saying isn't coming through to you. Luke goes to Dagobah. He trains with Yoda for a couple of days. He leaves training. He goes to Cloud City. He gets his ass kicked by Vader. He ends up in the tube. He finds out that Vader's his father. He gets his hand cut off. Movie ends.
Yep.
We see him again in Return of the Jedi. He is like
showing up to save his friends.
Still.
Because he got training in between that plan. There's a couple years between Empire and Jedi. It's not shown on screen,
and I get that. That can be inferred. And let me tell you why that can be inferred. That can be inferred because Lando Calrissian is
went undercover.
Jabba's palace.
Yeah. Full undercover job, snuck in, don't know how.
Leia is undercover in Jabba's palace. Inferred. So I get that part. My thing is, why do we automatically assume? Now, I get that you want to, but I'm saying, again, think about it. We're talking about the cinematic. We're not talking about canon. We're not talking about, well, we are talking about canon, but we're not talking about any of the books that came out after this movie. Because...
Okay, then I have nothing to support my argument. Cinematically, you are absolutely right.
That is my point.
It has to be logical inferences based upon what's not on screen. There's nothing to support.
Everybody wants to shit on Rey when Rey doesn't get the same allotments that Luke got. Everything that makes Luke get great came after the fact. Because when that movie came out, there was nothing to support.
No. It was literally movie or it. That's it. There was no written universe. There was no comics. There was no nothing. You had no backstory for Boba Fett. You had nothing for Vader.
Now do you get where I'm coming with this?
You want to talk movies only. Sorry, I apologize. I was
because Rey is only shit on, and everybody agrees, and even I agree. Her writing is bad.
That was atrocious. George Lucas did a great job with the originals.
Now,
I don't know what I got.
And I've said on more than one occasion. Even go back and if you can find the thread where we were hashing.
No, I know exactly where you stand on writing.
I stated, The Force Awakens, that movie is fine.
I like that movie.
You can leave that movie alone. And if you look at that movie, she is not a Mary Sue. There is a ball drop in the next two movies.
Oh, yeah.
And because of that ball drop, you don't get the development you want out of her character.
Yeah.
That is not what makes her a Mary Sue. What makes her a Mary Sue is if one person had written all three movies and her shit was the same. I wouldn't have a leg to stand on. I am saying that if you look at a one-to-one comparison, and that's why even Roberta was like, well, if you have a problem with Rey, then you got to have a problem with Luke. And everybody's like, no. Luke did this. Luke did that. Where?
In the movies?
Show me.
And the other movies. You're just not including them in your argument.
No,
because
and that is my point.
A 1v1 shot. You're not doing the whole trilogy. You have to take the whole enchilada. You can't just take the meat and be like, oh, the meat's great, but the tortillas sucked and all the fillings are crap.
That's why I'm asking you, tell me where Luke got this training.
Okay.
Don't include any books.
I'm saying the accolades of Luke
far
outweigh what Rey ever did.
Don't include any books. Take those three movies. I will let you have A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. And I want you to tell me where Luke got training.
It was literally only shown in one movie.
I'll give you two. Because he returns to Dagobah
at the beginning in the movie. If you're doing shot by shot, there was no training shown. I can't argue anything there. I'm not going to make up stuff just to fit my argument. The facts.
But I'll even go as far as to say that when he returns to Dagobah,
because Yoda's too weak to do anything.
No.
There's no way training could have transpired.
But what did he say to him?
All Yoda told him is your training is complete.
So I'll even concede right there
that he was a knight at that point in time officially.
Boom. I will give you that. You see what I'm saying? I'm not taking away from the fact that the man is who he is. I'm not taking away from all the great things he did. What I'm saying is don't make it seem like he just had all this extra one-on-one individual training from the greatest Jedi master that ever existed, because we don't have any proof of that. All we see is he is on Dagobah. He does a couple of flips with Yoda in a backpack. He lifts some rocks. He can't even lift his own ship. He leaves training before he's finished. He gets his hand cut off, ass kicked by his daddy, falls down a tube, and then we don't see him for a while. Then suddenly he pops up and he's like, I'm a Jedi Knight. And he does some cool shit. Boba Fett falls into the Sarlacc pit.
He killed a Rancor. He defeats Darth Vader.
No. Back up. Because at this point, he ain't defeated Darth Vader. Back up. You getting too far ahead.
We're still talking about Return.
We are still talking about
that
Return.
Far ahead. It's just the ending of the movie.
It's the end of the movie. So let's come back to the beginning of the movie.
There's a Rancor in the beginning of the movie.
Let's come back to the beginning of the movie.
I mean, I know he uses, a trap gate. It's not like he literally massacred this thing with his bare hands, but I mean,
no.
Killing a Rancor is killing a Rancor.
And I'm not wanting to say that any of these things weren't great feats. See, like, here's the thing. I'm not wanting to pull Luke down to
you
raise
just want
Rey
to be able
up.
to pull Rey up to where
No. I don't want to pull Luke down to raise Rey up. I just want you all to realize that they're on the same level. You cannot judge Rey on a different scale than you judge Luke. This is a nobody.
Scale, it's just
this is a nobody with no training. Why does he suddenly get to like do something with the Force and she does something with the Force? She's like, oh, well, she don't know nothing about it. Let me tell you something. When her ass was locked up on that ship and Ben Solo, when Kylo Ren tries to read her mind and that shit backfires and she looked into his mind, you don't think she just saw like all of this fucking capability by looking into the minds of one of the most powerful Jedi?
Well,
or one of the most powerful Force users?
I see your point, yes.
So here was somebody who didn't know none of this shit existed.
And all of a sudden she found the dummy's guide to how to be a Jedi.
Then suddenly, Maz Kanata told her, like, hey, look, I don't know about all
Maz
this
Kanata
other
was
shit.
Before that, but yeah.
Right. She's like, I'm taking it back a little bit. She's like, she touched the lightsaber. She had a Force echo. That's something she ain't never experienced before. And then all of a sudden, Maz is like, look, chick, I don't know nothing about nothing, but I know about the Force. The Force is a spirit that is around everything, and it is a part of you. That thing right there is talking. She's like, I don't want anything to do with it, and she runs off.
I would not want anything to do with Anakin's lightsaber anyway. That is the child massacre weapon #1.
Now, she runs out into the Force, and who does she bump into? Kylo fucking Ren. And what does she see for the first time? Kylo Ren, and she can't fucking move. She's never seen something like this before, but she saw that dude raised his hand at her, and she couldn't move.
Just stuck.
First-hand knowledge of how this shit works. She witnessed it herself. Didn't nobody have to tell her. She saw that shit. Now, keep in mind, we are acknowledging that she has a high M count. Let me tell you how high her M count was. The moment Snoke heard about the girl, this nigga wanted to drop, this individual wanted to drop everything and find out about her.
Because it was Palpatine. He knew who the girl was. He's like, that's my granddaughter.
So he already knew what that M count was looking like.
He's like, I see dollar signs. I see my new empire rising. I see my new vessel for my power. Because that was literally the only thing Palpatine wanted the whole time, is his human body was not strong enough to handle how damn powerful his Sith energy or a Sith Force power was. His body was deteriorating because that is the downside of being a Sith. Your body deteriorates more rapidly than that of a Jedi.
So you take it a little bit further. She's on the ship, and Kylo is talking to her, and he's like, hey, I could train you. You've seen the map. You could tell me where it is. Luke Skywalker. Don't worry about him. Blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's getting all this stuff.
He's just my fucked up uncle.
Like, you know what I'm saying? She's getting all this stuff that's, like, new to her. But she's witnessing it firsthand. And now, one of the most powerful Force users remaining in the galaxy is trying to, like, do the whole Force mind read thing. Right?
Yeah.
And that backfires. She can see into his mind.
Because we also didn't give Kylo credit for earlier when he literally stopped a blaster bolt midair. Because it was right behind him. He had no peripheral vision. That mask, nothing. He literally just turned around. Nope, not happening. And then Poe froze. So you
first time we've seen this happen.
And
wait. And not only did it freeze, it stayed there.
Until he walked all the way around, finished what he was doing, and then he's like, all right, there you go.
He looked over at Finn, You know what I'm saying? Realized like, okay, something weird about you, and he kept walking. And that was the first time we should have known something was up with Finn. He had to be force sensitive because why did Kylo even recognize that he was there? Because he's force sensitive, and
he looked exactly the same as everybody else, same mask, same uniform.
I'm
he just
really
stops.
mad that they did not go that route with Finn. They could have did so much. Oh my god, that would have been awesome. But
do you know how much better the movies would have been received if he had been the main character all the way through?
If Finn had been the Jedi and Rey had been the pilot, I would have been 100% on board with that.
Because there would have been no weird love ending. It would have been great. You didn't even have to tie him to being a Windu or a Calrissian or nothing. Just make him who he is.
He literally
could have been great.
You literally could have took the exact same story with Kylo Ren. You're a nobody, and we would have been okay with that.
Yep, because then that opens the door for so much more material of exploring who the fuck is this person? Why do I care about who this person is?
And people really forget about the broom kid at the end of episode 8.
He's literally just brooming without using his hands. He's just,
you know what I'm saying? He reaches over and the broom comes to him. So it's like, don't make it seem like you just got to have all this extra duper training.
Because the kid was just like, oh, well,
once you realize that you are tapped into the Force,
you're good.
You gonna figure out how to get that thing over to you. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of like Grogu, bring him back home, because Grogu literally is. We don't know he's force sensitive. Next thing you know, he sees Daddy Mando in trouble. What does he do? Picks up a damn rhinoceros in midair, just holds onto it for a couple seconds. Mando's just like,
oh yeah,
what the fuck is this shit?
Stops a death horn, blocked all of the fire when the IG unit decided to self-destruct to take out all those other stormtroopers, and the flame was coming back that way.
Just no.
He just put his hand up and boom, all the flame just went around the ship, and
which we also saw from Kanan too. So that was a nice little Rebels.
Right, that was kind of hot. You know what I'm saying?
Emmett Filoni, stop making us so happy that you exist.
So it's I still feel like. I don't like the argument that Rey is a Mary Sue, because I feel like The Force Awakens justified everything that took place in The Force Awakens.
Honestly, we should send this when we're done at some point to Jeffrey. I feel like he'd be a good moderator for the Mary Sue argument. But we can also post this in a 2-parter, because I feel like we have talked the Star Wars universe very sufficiently. We barely even covered Mandalorian anything. We didn't even talk about Boba fucking Fett.
Boba Fett, you know what? I'm good. You know what?
Because I'm not tired of shit, and you ain't working tomorrow, so it's all up to your schedule.
So what we're going to do is we're going to close this video out. We appreciate y'all watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow us for hit the little bell notification so you can stay tuned and know whenever we post something new. We're going to actually come back in just a minute, so make sure you follow the next video, because we about to jump all into the wonderful thing called them Mandalorians. We about to talk about your boy, Boba Fett. He's back, baby. Boba Fett with the dad bod. It's great. I love it. Big boys is getting love in 2020. You know what? In the 20s, are we in the 20s? We about to hit the 20s.
Yeah.
In the late 2000s.
The dad bod started coming in, and the next thing you know, 5 years later, it's a thing.
We got
if you have a dad bod, girls fucking love it. I don't get it.
Because I think the first time we saw it was with Vin Diesel in a post after a movie. He had he wasn't in shape for a movie, and he had the dad bod.
And he got shamed for it, but then it got flipped later into a positive because the internet wasn't having it. They're like, no body shaming.
You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, we never did the same thing for mom bods. When's that going to get some love? I love some mom bods.
And then we had Bro Thor. Bro Thor was, you know what I'm saying? Or Dude Thor, however you want to look at it. You know what I'm saying? We had him. He was a thing. And now we got dad bod Boba Fett. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, hey, look.
2020 loves some fat dudes.
It's all about that love. So be sure to check out the next video. We're going to dive more into Boba Fett.
Mandalorian too.
I'm going to try not to talk about any more Mary Sue conversations, because it's like pulling teeth. We have a difference of opinion, and we're both trying to
cordially disagree.
Convince him of my opinion. I just want him to see my side.
I see your side.
And I think it comes
saying I don't
down
happen to agree.
I think it comes down to all we need is for Ray to get a book. If Ray gets a book, then it'll be canon and everybody can shut the hell up and we'll talk about how she was a pilot beforehand. And
that'll be your petty Christmas gift to me. Hey, I was right.
I wouldn't be petty like that. I would get you that book just because you need to know. Not to be petty.
And then you would leave a small note, just, hey, I was right.
I would send that in a text. Like that I would not taint your book with that. I would send that in a text. Did you get that book I got you? I was right. See? There it is. All right, so
I will eat crow on a video if that does in fact transpire. I'm more than happy to admit when I am in fact wrong.
If that's the case, I mean, if they're not gonna put a book out there to explain Ray and make her be less Mary Sue, all I want people to do is recognize that Luke was just as much a Gary Sue. They had to retcon and they had to fix everything about Luke in books that came out after the fact. Because if you just look at the trilogy, nothing in the trilogy justifies anything he did. They did not show that he had the training. As best we can assume, he lost his hand and he was out training by himself, because when he decided to go back to Dagobah, he states he was going to visit an old friend, and that makes it seem like that was the first time he went back. If that was the first time he went back after the couple of days training, where did he get all this extra training to become a Jedi? And honestly, what did he do that was so special when he had on the black suit to indicate that he had learned any new tricks? Nothing. He fought a Rancor. Bruh, I really feel like Ray could have dodged that and rolled out the way and thrown a rock to hit the thing. Come on, she was pretty capable. Like we've seen.
I think Boba Fett would have absolutely smashed the ever-loving crap out of her. But that's another conversation for another. It's hypothetical.
You know what? Fett. I'm glad you said that because we're about to talk about Boba Fett. So y'all come back and check this out because he done started some shit now, baby. Ooh, he went there with Boba. Yeah, hey, look, I appreciate y'all watching this. Make sure you like and subscribe. Come back and check this out because I'm about to go in. We appreciate y'all being here. Peace. Let me get this. Oh, got to get this outro. All right, we out.